Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast from May 21st in the year of our Lord 2025. Promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property, celebrating the checks and balances, using the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, for the United States of America as our guide, rejecting revolution unless it's a Jesus revolution, then we're in because we follow the Prince of Peace, and hard-hitting talk radio, straight ahead. This half hour is brought to you by PrepStartsNow.com. You've got a friend in the preparedness business, ladies and gentlemen. PrepStartsNow.com can help you with long-term storable food. And the best part is all kinds of guides to help you and your family get prepared. Takes a lot of work, people. It doesn't happen overnight. So don't panic, but work on it slowly, will you please, and get prepared today. PrepStartsNow.com. Without further ado, James Edwards with me. ThePoliticalCesspool.org is his website for his incredible weekend show called The Political Cesspool. He's also the author of Racism, Schmacism, highlighting the fact before Donald Trump or anybody else even got wind of it all. He ought to update the book. But other than that, welcome back, sir.
It's getting scary now, Sam. I come on usually every other week with you. How's it been 2 weeks already? This is disconcerting. But it's great to be back. And time is just going, we're so busy now. I mean, we are busier than ever before. You and I, and collectively, the work of
That's
this
all
network,
by
there's
design.
just
They
so
wanna-
much
They want to have
going
us so busy
on.
we can't see straight.
Well, they got it. Mission accomplished.
That's right. They
I mean,
want us
so much
busy we
travel.
can't defend liberty. They want us to be so busy we can't do anything and get ahead in life. They want us just to drain all of our bank accounts and virtually go broke.
Well, I mean, that's never been a problem because I've always had it's been drained forever. But the busyness is all of the work being done for liberty, all of these different events and the different things we've been a part of. Well, of course, for the last quarter century, but I've been all over the place the last few weeks speaking, and from places as vast and varied as Texas to Michigan, and a lot of interviews. I got a couple of other interviews later today. No, it's and you. I mean, it's busy. You're busy. Everybody's busy.
But
There's a lot of work to be done.
We're losing the battle on so many fronts, and I've just got to talk about some of them. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me carefully. Headline says this: Chicago mayor claims black people are the most generous people on the planet. TheBlaze.com with that piece. Second piece: Chicago mayor Brandon Johnson only hires black people, writes Jason Whitlock Harmony. Don't think about that. He only hires black people. They're the most generous people on the planet. Can you say that kind of stuff, James?
If you're the black mayor of Chicago, you certainly can, and he did. And of course, that has never been called into question. I mean, we have said this for years and years and years. I mean, it was actually one of these just fundamental, transparent observations that led to the book you mentioned, Racism, Schmacism, which is, as far as charges of racism go, the equivalent of the emperor has no clothes. Somebody just had to say, hey, what's going on out there? And these double standards are, of course, a big part of that book. But when people like this mayor say, well, I've hired only black people, or I stand for my people, I'm going to defend my community first. And people would say, well, of course, what do you call a guy who does that? What do you call a black man who talks like that and takes action like that? You call him a black man. What do you call a Jewish man who looks after the Jewish faith and the Jewish people and the Jewish community first? And that's at first in his heart. When you call that guy a Jewish man, what do you call a white man who wants to do the same for his community, for his people? You call him a white supremacist. And
a
so
bigot, a racist, a hater, an evil, and we go on, right?
That's right. But,
the
I
good
think
news is in modern society, it's lost its mojo, though, James. It just shows these clowns for who they really are.
The last 8 years, I mean, you say you're pessimistic, we're losing on, or not pessimistic, you said we're losing on some fronts. And certainly, I mean, there are some fronts where we're still very weak, but I have seen a strengthening. There was a huge, I'm going to be talking about it on my program this weekend, a huge summit in Italy last week. A lot of our friends were there. I mean, a lot of people that I know personally have been talking to me about it from Italy. and we'll have some of those reports this weekend, but it was a remigration summit. I mean, I think a lot of our ideas about, frankly, Donald Trump's entire platform is the platform of Pat Buchanan, who was the reason that I got into radio. So, I mean, essentially, you could say, and it's not an exaggeration to say, that Donald Trump's platform is essentially the platform of the Political Cesspool radio program and of Liberty Roundtable to a large degree. And so, I mean, there are some great advancements
it's true.
being made.
It's got some flies in the ointment. It's got some fatal fundamental flaws, but a lot of it has to do with what Pat Buchanan stood for sure, and what Ron Paul stood for back in the day as well, for sure, and several others. And certainly, Pat Buchanan primarily was the key one to set the stage for this focus, this agenda. That's for sure.
Well, certainly, they were fundamental to this, and Trump is his own man, and so it is going to, as you say, going to have a few deviations. But overall, and especially with this thing about these baseless smears, these accusations of racism, that has just, especially, you mentioned it a moment ago, over the last 8 years, since 2016, that has almost lost all of its potency. I mean, people are just so numb to it. Yes, we get it. If anybody, well, that was the whole book. What do you, if a white person disagrees, or if you disagree with a white person, or a white person has a difference of opinion on any matter, what do? You call them a racist. That's what you do. It's a socio-political nuclear bomb that is intended to stifle debate and to get you out in the weeds, debating whether you are or not a racist, rather than working for common sense solutions on any given issue. And that is just, I mean, that reached a high water mark, a decade ago, 15 years ago. I mean, even through the George Floyd stuff, I mean, obviously that was like in some ways, the zenith of this wokeism, but it is in retreat right now. I mean, for sure. I mean, people now are actually, I mean, you got conservative commentators now soliciting the condemnation of groups like the ADL and the SPLC, whereas when we first went on the air, that was almost a kiss of death for anybody who got it. And now, I mean, people are trying to get that as sort of like street cred.
Which is just beyond my imagination. I believe we're all God's children and we should act like it. I also agree we have fundamental differences in the populations of the world, and people should be free to associate with whom they want to without, hostile, hate-filled repercussions. This
the
idea
mayor of
that
Chicago
I only
does.
hire black people, or this idea that black people are the most generous people on the planet. I mean, to me, what if I were to say that about white? Hey, I only hire white people, and I'm telling you right now, white people are the most generous people on the planet. I'd have more facts on my side than this guy does.
I tell you what, another thing you would have facts on, and people might not want to hear it. It's not anything that we celebrate. It's not anything that brings us any joy to say. But could you say that black people are the most violent people in America? I mean, certainly the statistics, the FBI hardcore statistics, 13% of the population, over 50% of all violent crimes. I mean, that is staggering. So, I mean, I haven't necessarily had the.
You can also wisely ask yourself, why is that? And there's a bunch of reasons for it.
Well, I've got one that people will balk, will.
Go ahead. This is America, buddy.
It's genetic predisposition for the most part. People will say it's because of.
I think there's part of that. I think there's part of that to it. I think it's also basically the fact that we've taken fathers out of black homes more than other homes. We've literally used Planned Parenthood to murder a lot of the black babies and black children. You got women raising, young men by themselves, where the gang becomes dad kind of a thing, or, hey, the respect and the whatever goes to the criminals of society. And we, then fund it with our tax dollars and say, oh my gosh, government has to become big daddy. And we do all these things. You've got drugs in the mix that literally gravitate towards these poorer communities. I mean, you can go on and on and on. In fact, our buddy Sean Bergen got fired for saying, hey, these people need fathers in their homes.
That's a big part of it. There's no doubt about it. It is a combination of different reasons, but you cannot deny that. I mean, if you took that particular portion out of the population, and again, it brings me no joy to say this, but if you took them out of the population of New York, you'd basically have no violent crime in New York. I mean, this is based on hard law enforcement statistics. And then you get into, well, law enforcement is racist. Standards are, why don't they score as high? Standards are racist. And But yeah, I mean, as far as this, the black mayor of Chicago hiring people that he feels most comfortable with, I have no problem with that. I can't say, I think it's a good idea to be able to.
I have every problem with it. I don't think that you should use race I don't think you should hire only black people. I think you should hire the best person for the job.
I mean, well,
Most qualified
he might have a
person should be
problem.
hired.
He might. Well, we always say that, but of course, merit should be factored in over checking a box, and typically this is with regards to affirmative action and quotas and set-asides. But there is something for continuity and homogeneity and just being comfortable and working with people in a high-trust environment. But nevertheless,
all right,
what he
I'm
said
not very
didn't bother
happy
me.
with the Donald. We'll talk about it. Liberty Roundtable Live.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt, and there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
All right, there's a big old battle, a hoopla, a big old discussion, a big old whatever. Media participated in cover-up of Biden's decline, experts now say. Washington stand with that headline. This government was illegally run for 4 years. Trump vows probe into Biden's autopen. Joe Kovacs, WND.com. Who signed legislation opening our border? I don't think he knew, said Donald Trump. I said there's nobody who could want an open border. Nobody. And now I find out that it wasn't him who autopenned it. Trump also noted open borders allowed 21 million people into our country. Many of these people are stone cold murderers. Trump issues astonishing defense of Joe Biden while reiterating who he believes is actually responsible for destroying America. He called it, quote, treason at the highest level. Dailymail.co.uk with that piece. President Trump said that his predecessor did not destroy the country. Rather, it was his staff around him that knew that he was cognitively impaired. Trump posted on Truth Social that Biden was not for open borders and that it was his staff that put America in great danger. The president called it treason. Joe Biden was not for open borders. He never talked about open borders. It wasn't his idea to open the border. Okay? It was the people that knew that he was cognitively impaired and that took over the autopen. It stole the presidency of the United States and put us in great danger. This is treason at the highest levels. They did it to destroy our country. Joe Biden would have never allowed this to happen. All we have to do is look up Joe Biden's record, he continued. Something very severe should happen to these treasonous thugs that want to destroy our country but couldn't because Donald Trump, came along. Okay, then they talk about Axios, Alex Thompson, and CNN's Jake Tapper released a book on Biden's physical and mental decline while in the White House. It goes on and on. James, this to me, I don't know if Donald's become delusional or what on earth is going on here, but I've got a problem with this whole discussion. Where do we want to start?
Well, I think Trump is being a little bit too magnanimous to Biden. Biden was always a horrible, vapid, sociopathic career politician. There was never any good in him. Yes, he did change his positions on the issues over the years. On some issues he was good on until the tide turned and, the establishment told him, or his handlers told him, he needed to start voting in a different way. But there was never much to Biden other than the fact that he was, as I said, just a sociopathic career politician. So, Trump saying some, somewhat nice things about a dying man. It's definitely not hard to believe the other part, though, that his staff was basically running him and that he was completely, almost entirely
incapacitated. Let's take it a piece at a time first. He says Joe didn't destroy the country. You believe that? I think he's been in the country for 50 years, and he's been destroying the country for 50 years, buddy.
Well, I mean, Biden himself was certainly a part of the problem and was certainly a part of that system that has destroyed the country. But did Biden himself as an individual do it? No, he was just part of it.
Well, then we can say nobody ever destroys the country. It's always somebody else. It's always, okay. Well, Joe's been in office 50 years. He's literally traded with the enemy. He's literally committed treason himself with all kinds of Joe Biden and fiascos and foreign manipulations and pay to play, and we go on, and then we're like, hey, Joe's a good dude. He didn't destroy the country. He was naive, and everybody took advantage of him.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I don't think he was.
That's what Donald Trump is saying.
I get it, but I mean, Trump uses a lot of different schemes in order to set his sights on new targets, and now he's looking at. He's going to say a few things.
But I'm done with it, though. Here's the problem. He's had 120 days now, right?
Yeah, I guess that's about right.
January 20th
to
May 21st, right? 120 days.
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard babbles about autopens. I've heard babbles about Joe's not competent. I've heard all these things. But now they're going to start looking into it, and we're going to defend Joe as we go?
Well, he may just be doing this to just cast aspersions on the Democratic Party and the leadership, just to keep them under heel. I mean, it may not be anything that he's serious about doing. I mean, certainly, yeah.
Hold on, that's my problem. What do you mean we're not serious about doing? If Joe Biden did this, and or if those around him did this, who's going to prison? And we wasted 120 days, and now we're going to start talking about this? Then they're going to say, we can't really put Joe in jail. We better wait till after the election there. We got to, okay, this is a clown show, James. Heads need to roll if any of this is true in any stretch of the imagination. People need to go to prison.
I guess if Trump is in control of the intelligence community now, or if he has some allies now that he didn't have then, you could go after some of these people, but you're certainly not going to be able to ask Joe Biden about it.
Why not?
Well, he's not going to know.
What do you mean? Just put him on the stand. Hold on. Put him on the stand. He was the president, and he still claims that he could have beat Donald Trump and that he's totally competent.
Well, they're also, I mean, this goes back to the bigger part that the media itself is actually focusing on. I mean, this goes back to as late as last year at this time, straight up last year at this time, not even 12 months ago, because that debate that, the cat was finally out of the bag, where everybody just knew what we knew for years, that Biden is obviously incapacitated, happened in a little bit later. It was in June, I believe.
Either he's competent or he's not. And either you say that he's competent and he can swear under the penalty of perjury like everybody else and get on the stand and tell the tale, or a doctor can say he's not competent and capable.
Well,
we can't get a doctor to even tell the truth and come on record. Now, you have all kinds of media pundit doctors babbling at the mouth.
Well, no.
But you don't have any real people to say, look, this guy's completely incompetent. He cannot testify. Then if that's true, how long have we known that to be the case? See?
Well,
this cancer stuff. Oh, man. Hey, it couldn't have been true that we just found this out when he tried to go pee and couldn't, and we found out he had cancer. And no, this has been going on for a long time, say the experts. And so who knew what when? We wasted 120 days, and we don't know any more than when we started.
I mean, there's a lot of problems, and there's a lot of things to focus on. I don't know how much putting, a dying man in prison for treason or getting his conspirators is on the list. I mean, you could certainly make a case that it should be up there. But what I'm saying is, a year ago at this time, he got a clean bill of health that was on the record
That's right.
in a document.
Who's going to put out the real records and what they really knew?
Well, this is the point, though. I mean, this is it's what the media is focusing on right now, that his doctor, with a letter that was shared all over media saying he got a clean bill of health, he's fit as a fiddle. This was a year ago, and now a year later, he's got stage 5 prostate cancer that spread to the bone. I mean, it's possible that I guess you could get an aggressive form of cancer that
they
has
say it's not possible. They say this kind of cancer takes 5 years before it can metastasize. How do you say that?
Well, then I don't
get the bone and all that kind of stuff. They say it's impossible. The experts are saying it's not true.
Then it would be possible if you were a regular working class guy who doesn't have time to go to the doctor for this to happen.
Okay, that's
and then it
possible.
Just grows over years. But what I'm saying is there's no way that the president of the United States wasn't getting regular checkups, didn't have doctors all over him. So they had to have known last year that he had cancer. They had to have known that.
Okay, so if you literally know the president is incompetent and has cancer and you say nothing, now what Trump wants to do is blame the Democrats and the media. He wants to say the media was negligent in this, the Democrats are bad, people around him use the autopen, it's treason, people should, pay for this or whatever. People like who? Mike Johnson? Mike Johnson literally basically went on TV and said, I knew a year ago he wasn't capable of running
that was not good. That was not.
Okay.
There's
so
no way
Mike Johnson
that you
going to prison. No, because look, if we don't do anything, what's to stop this from happening tomorrow with the next president? And when we talk about this autopen and stuff, who's been able to run the autopen without anybody else running interference or knowing or whatever else? And who knew about the autopen being used? Let's say that Trump's right. Hey, Joe's incompetent. These clowns surrounding him took advantage of Joe. And they used the autopen, and Joe didn't sign anything, and Joe didn't even know what the hell was going on. And okay, fine, let's accept that narrative. So who are we talking about now then? Are we talking about Mike Johnson, who knew in advance, Speaker of the House? Are we talking about Donald himself? Are we talking about who? Vice President? Kamala? Is she the one that ran the autopen? Because we literally sat by and let her run for the presidency in Joe's wake. If she was the one, did we know then? When did we know who's using the autopen or who uses this or how? Okay, there's no dots here. And so we're making all these allegations without any evidence or details, and I don't see any real effort to get to the bottom of it except for TV ops. Okay, let me give you an example. Who's giving you all the details on this? You ready? You got this whacked out Axios, Alex Thompson, and CNN anchor Jake Tapper. Those are the guys supposedly releasing the book, getting all the fame and getting all the prestige from this. And they're going to talk about the decline in the White House. These are the guys that told you there was no decline. Meanwhile, they were writing a book about it being a decline. Or did they really write the book in the last couple days? Wait a minute. They interviewed hundreds of people, they claim. How long does it take to interview hundreds? You've written a book, James. When we get back, how long does it take to interview hundreds of people? Right?
We'll talk about it.
Let's talk about this. This is insanity, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to be a clown show. It's going to be like Lock Up Hillary. And then we're not going to do anything. Joe didn't mean to. Joe's a good guy. In fact, Joe was nice to me, says Donald. Joe and Donald are buddies. I've told you that literally for over a decade. Hang tight. I'm Sam Bushman. This is the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. President Trump calls it the Golden Dome, a proposed missile defense system designed to shield the continental U.S. from aerial attack.
This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space.
The estimated cost, $175 billion. President's so-called Big Beautiful Bill nearing a vote in the House. In fact, the vote could come as soon as today. Target sales missed the mark.
FactSet says sales at Target fell nearly 3% in the first quarter. That was more than expected. Now the retailer is warning that sales will drop this year as consumers worried about the impact of tariffs cut down on spending. Target says it expects a low single-digit decline in sales for 2025. The company is focusing on customers who are nervous about the economy and high prices. It's offering 10,000 new items, the majority costing less than $20. Target says it's looking at different ways to absorb their cost. I'm Mike Hemp.
5 of the 10 inmates who escaped from a New Orleans jail last Friday have been recaptured. Meanwhile, a jail maintenance worker is under arrest. 33-year-old Sterling Williams accused of helping the inmates make good their escape. Congressman Jerry Connolly has died. The Virginia Democrat died at home this morning. Congressman Jerry Connolly was 75 years old. Watching Wall Street, the Dow is down 305 points, the Nasdaq off 56, and the S&P 27 points lower. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. As executive director of Turning Point USA, a national radio host, podcaster, husband, and father of 2, my schedule is about as crazy as it can possibly get. 2 years ago, I made the decision to take control of my health, and I chose PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition because I needed a plan that fit my hectic lifestyle. I travel a lot, and my schedule changes every week, so I need something simple. They customized a plan for my body and my schedule, and I quickly lost 30 pounds. Now I have the energy and focus to get through my busy day. PhD will help you too. They won't let you fail. Just give them a call, schedule your weight loss consultation, and see if their program is right for you. Call 855-696-2020. That's 855-696-2020. The first 11 callers who mention the word healthy will get 2 weeks added to their weight loss package. Call 855-696-2020 and mention the word healthy, or visit them at myphdweightloss.com. That is myphdweightloss.com. It worked for me. It can work for you. myphdweightloss.com.
Do you treasure your liberty? Well, at lovingliberty.net, we most certainly do. And we want to help protect your liberty too. Become part of the family. Everyone knows that the core of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect the integrity of its family, we the people. Won't you join us as a Loving Liberty sponsor to help us promote the principles in the 5,000-year leap? Let's restore the miracle that changed the world at lovingliberty.net.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began. Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Freewater Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Freewater Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So if Donald Trump is saying the truth that, hey, Joe Biden's clueless and didn't know, that's fine. Let's talk about who did know and who should be in prison then. Mike Johnson, to me, seems top among the list. He's from the opposite party, and he protected Joe for over a year. In fact, Joe was going to run for president, and Mike Johnson said nothing, right? So not only was he going to let him serve, or not only did he let him serve for a year knowing full well he wasn't competent, but he was going to let him run for the next 4 years and said nothing. Mike Johnson, in my opinion, under that scenario, belongs in jail. But let's talk about the people around him. What about his wife? What about Jill Biden? How much did Jill protect Joe? How much did Jill, deceive the media or whatever you want to call, okay? What about Hunter? And he was seen often in the White House with Joe. Is Hunter running the presidency? Who's running the presidency of the United States for the last 4 years? The current president sat there for 4 months, and at the end of it, he says, yeah, bad guys. Joe's good. Bad guys did it. They're treasonous. Well, what have we done about that for the last 4 months then? And longer for Congress, I might add. Let's talk about Biden's current cabinet members. According to the White House, they say they're listed in order of succession to the president. Okay? Vice President Kamala Harris. Okay. How come we haven't really even brought this up about Harris for the last 4 months? How about Secretary of State Anthony Blinken? How about Secretary of the Treasury Janet Yellen? I mean, most of this autopen stuff had to do with finances, right? How about Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, the guy that got caught going to the hospital lying and not even letting anybody know that he was gone? Doesn't matter if you're gone if the president doesn't know what's going on either, right? How about Attorney General Merrick Garland, the guy that put all the J6ers in prison and everything else and lied before Congress and so on? What about that guy? What about Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland? What about her? What about Secretary of Agriculture Tom Millsap? What about Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo? What about Acting Secretary of Labor Julie Su? What about Secretary of Health and Human Services Xavier Acela? What about Acting Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Adrian Todman? How about Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, or whatever his name is, Buttcheek, whatever you call the guy? How about Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm? What about Secretary of Education Dr. Miguel Cordova? What about Secretary of Veteran Affairs? I don't even know how to say his name. Dennis McDonough? How about Secretary of Homeland Security Mayorkas? What, Alejandro Mayorkas, right? What about all these people? Those are the people that surrounded the president. I mean, the Speaker of the House certainly had to be involved with the president quite a bit. What about the leaders of the Senate? Who led the Senate then, huh? See, we look at this and we want to basically throw blame everywhere, but there's no accountability and no transparency. I brought up more people responsible for this than the president himself, James.
Well, I don't get as worked up as you have about this, because I look at it as, number one, there wasn't anybody in America who was being honest, who thought Joe Biden was in control, who thought he was in control. I mean, I never thought that, but the thing is, for me, though, it was just more apparent with Joe Biden. I don't think any president in my lifetime, save Donald Trump this term, was ever really anything more than just a figurehead, just doing what they were told by special interests and a lot of other competing interests. George Bush, how much authority do you think he had to make decisions? Bill Clinton, all of these people, they're all owned and operated. I think Trump right now is the only president in my lifetime who actually does the things he wants to do by and large. So with Biden, he was just another one that was doing what he was told at every turn. It was just obvious that the whole facade that presidents can, are autonomous and can act with based upon their own volition. It was just obvious that Biden wasn't that case.
What about writing this book, though? These clowns said they didn't know. They did the big cover-up. Now they wrote a book, and now we're letting these guys lead the media and the public about what happened during the Biden administration and how they say they had more than 200 interviews with White House and party officials. Tapper and Thompson reported that aides were considering putting Biden in a wheelchair and that he didn't even know who George Clooney was. And then you got Mike Johnson saying, oh, yeah, he didn't even know what bill I was talking about. He was totally confused. 2 days before the book's release, Biden's team announced that Joe had been diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer. They say the grim diagnosis has brought up questions from everybody and their dog, how this is even possible. Doctors and cancer experts told the Daily Caller that Biden likely had cancer while he was in the White House. And it takes 5 more years to develop, etc. It can take years, and people should try to find out what happened, says Donald Trump. How do I find out what happened? People should find out what happened, says Trump. How do I do that, James? Any idea?
Well, if you're the president, you probably have some authority to...
No. He wants me. He wants the people. He wants me and you to find out what happened.
Well, yeah, that's not going to happen. And it's interesting in this media. Well, of course, again, what do you expect? Jake Tapper, he's the epitome of lying, controlled media. He's going to run, he's going to cover for Biden until that plays out because he's a disgusting leftist. And then, hey, I can make some money. Biden's gone now. I'll make a little money selling a book. What's the big deal? So that's what's going on with that. And what do you expect from the media? But, yeah, this whole thing that he was healthy last year and then all of a sudden since he left office, the cancer began and it spread to stage 5 through the bone and everything in 5 months? Come on. That's just obviously not the case. So we were certainly lied to about that. I think the American people has the right to know that a president not only has cancer, but most likely dementia and other things as well. But, again, as far as having a finite amount of time and capital to do things, I don't know how much time Trump wants to spend on this because, again, Biden, in my opinion, was no different than any other president. He was just ridiculously, transparently not in control.
Hold on. Are we just going to accept then that the president can be completely incompetent and not make decisions and others can make them on his behalf? Is that what we've agreed to then?
Well, you can go after those people if you want to spend time doing that, but I don't think there was any. Again, fundamentally, to me, there was no difference between Biden and every other president that came before him for a long, long time. He was not in control. People were running him. That's just the way it is.
Is that okay in America, or are we going to do something about it?
Well, it's been that way for as long as you've been alive.
I know. So does that mean you're fine with it?
I'm not fine with it, but I'd rather keep going. I'd rather keep going and win it. They can go after these people. I'd love to see these people go to prison. I'd love to see anybody who was actually signing things in Joe Biden's name or using his auto pen. I would love to see them go to prison.
Expose that and shine the light on it and prosecute to the full extent of the law. If you don't, you're just going to engender it to continue.
No, I would love for them to go after him. But again, how does this play politically? Probably, if you're going after functionaries, if you're going after people who took advantage, it probably plays okay. If you go after Biden, probably not as well. People aren't going to have a stomach for going after somebody who's probably going to be dead in a few months.
Well, but, let's say we don't go after Biden. Let's say we say, oh, the autopen did it and Joe didn't do it. And that's fine. But are we going to start to indict people? Are we going to start?
I would love to see that.
To testify on the stand. If we don't, though, this is just going to happen forever. And if we do, why are we talking about it now and letting Jake Tapper and clowns provide the lead? They're the ones that have the book. They're the ones getting interviewed all over. It's been 4 months for Donald Trump and 5 months for Congress, and we've literally done nothing.
Well, see, now that is, I would much rather see people like Tapper take a rap on the on the head with this, rhetorically speaking, than.
I mean, I would
even
basically,
Biden.
if I was interviewing Tapper, I'd say, listen, you claim in your book that the aides were planning to put Donald or Joe Biden in a wheelchair. When did you know that, Jake?
And why didn't he report that? Yeah, because
when
again,
did you know that, Jake? And when did you let us know that?
He apparently, just like the onset of this cancer, it all happened after the election, right? Tapper only began his research and came to find the truth after it was too late to say anything.
How do you
about it.
interview 200 plus people at the top brass of government to get all this detail and stuff like that in a very short period of time? I don't think it's possible.
Well, it depends on if you've got a staff or not, which is something we've.
even if you've got a staff, though, I don't see how, a lot of the aides and a lot of the different people are going to be interviewed off the record or say they can't be interviewed. I mean, I can't even get a hold of my congressman, buddy. These guys get a hold of 200 inside top brass staff to get the details. Buddy, we're all being played for suckers, my friend.
And that's people who are going to agree to talk to very mainstream media about something very secret and very sensitive. That is,
yeah, you think they're going to just do that willy-nilly? Hundreds of them
exactly.
Just lining up to get her done? And how do all these interviews happen and nobody even knows? Nobody can even find out and blow the whistle or anything on it. Go ahead and skip the break. All right.
Well, Mike Johnson, you say what you will about him. He was still the first one we heard this from. That you could say, and probably true, that if he knew that this was going on while they were in office.
Bacon plan at that point. I better speak out first because I'm going to get caught in the crossfire.
So, of course, when he witnessed this, I see describes it and explains that this would have been certainly while Biden was still president, obviously, and we didn't hear about it at the time.
Here's the ultimate question. If it really was an auto pen and really people who didn't have authority to sign signed, first off, it's fraud to the highest levels. You could say it's treason. You could say it's fraud. Whatever words you want to use to describe, hey, you did something without authority. Now, how many bills did Joe Biden sign total?
Well, if you remember,
and are all those now off the table and unwound? That's the next question.
The thing that Mike Johnson was bringing up was this conversation that he had with Biden in the Oval Office, and they were talking about a bill that he had signed, and then it come to find out Biden apparently had no idea he had signed the bill or the order, and he had signed something totally different. And, at this point, you could certainly just say, well, he was confused. A staffer could plausibly say, well, we asked him and he told us to do this. And you're never going to get to the truth because Biden won't remember, and he wouldn't have remembered at the time. If he didn't remember at the time, he's not going to remember now. And
fine, we don't need the truth. Let's say we don't prosecute anybody. Let's say we don't do anything. Let's say we just say that's the way it always is. It's been that way. Who cares? No harm, no foul. Fine. Are all these bills then in force?
But that's a very good question. If you've got
what
this,
if you signed a check for Sam Bushman or whatever, you signed whatever a mortgage or an obligation or whatever the case may be, is it going to fly? Or what if they find out you did that?
You're onto something here. So let's just say you've got a great grandfather with a lot of money in the bank, and but he's in the nursing home, and
doesn't know what's going on.
He's got Alzheimer's, and exactly doesn't know what's going on, gets confused a lot, or perhaps is perpetually confused. Can you grab a check out of his checkbook and have him write his name on it and go cash it? But that's what you're talking about politically.
Fine. It happens all the time. A chain of presidents have done that. No big deal. Who cares?
Well, that is how it's always been done. I'm saying with Biden, it's no different than how it's always been done.
I'm saying people's heads need to roll, and those bills should not stand. They should all be basically wiped away and say we've wasted 4 years. We passed a bunch of bills that were not signed properly. Heads are going to roll for that, and all those bills are null and void.
Well, it's a good idea.
It's a good idea. Either way, can you?
Well,
because if you say that it holds the weight of law, then what? If it holds the weight of law, then we didn't do anything wrong, right?
I need to go back and find exactly what it was that Johnson alleged was mistakenly signed, or the autopen was used on, or how many times that they're saying.
Well, I mean, the Johnson's just one example, though. Either the autopen's true that that Donald Trump is talking about. Here, Trump basically says it's treason at the highest level. He said that his predecessor did not destroy the country. Rather, it was staff around him that knew that he was cognitively impaired. So again, if this is true, then I'm coming back and saying, hey, none of that holds water. And all the bills that that Joe Biden signed should be DOA. And if you say that they are fine, it's okay that an auto pen or imposter was used to sign, or an autopen, or nobody signed, it was just AI that signed, or whatever you want to do. I don't know what an autopen really means, right? Does it mean that it was signed by AI, or does it mean that somebody else signed on his behalf, or does it mean it was just an electronic signature pasted in? What does it mean? See, we don't even know. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is either it holds the rule of law or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then it all needs to be unwound. If it does, then why shouldn't I just be the signer? I think Sam should sign them going forward. I mean, it's lawful, right? Well, not really, Sam. See, we can't let this go, James.
Well, that's fine, and I understand, and I appreciate you being a purist and wanting justice on all things, and that's a good way to be. Of course, as you know, we have a criminally corrupt justice system. Even though Trump's the president, you've got a lot of judges, you got to have a lot of friends of Biden. This thing would get mired in the swamp for, probably beyond Trump's life.
So here's the question then. They got a big, beautiful bill right now. Trump rallies GOP lawmakers on Capitol Hill for final push for one big, beautiful bill. YourNews.com with that piece. In Capitol Hill visit, Trump tells House GOP, you better back the big, beautiful bill or you're a fool. That's according to the Daily Wire. Okay. Trump's promise for the big, beautiful bill is here. I don't know if you know, but it's over 1,000 pages. No one would contest its size. But not all Republicans are convinced of the, quote, beauty of the bill. Fine. Can you even read a 1,000-page bill, James?
That's again, Ron Paul and Rand Paul would talk about that. They'd be bringing in bills and wheelbarrows. That's how thick they would be. And you're supposed to read them in an hour.
1,000-page bill.
That's a short one compared to some of them that they vote on.
I agree 100%, but can you even read that, James?
No. I don't think
you can read it, and I'm going to tell you why you can't read it. And this is where I was on the radio with George Ballantine and Lance Miliacho, and George was like, Sam, you just got to read the bill. That was when it was like that short bill they passed earlier that was like 100 pages or something. I went and looked it up, and on the first page it referred to like 40 different legislative previous bills that it modified this bill by this and that bill by that. And
every single page you'd have to,
okay, unless you go through literally millions of pages of documents, you can't read the bill and understand it because you've got to follow all the references and say, okay, wait, if you change paragraph 5 in this sentence and strike this and add this and that, it's not possible to really even read or go through this, people. And don't tell me it is, because I'll put you on the radio and prove it. You pull up the bill and let's just talk about the first page of 1,000, and I'll prove it to you. You can't. You can't know. So these people are citing things they have no idea about. Basically, all Congress and the president is going to have an auto pen going forward then, right? Even if they sign it themselves, if they don't know what they're signing, it's equivalent to an auto pen, right?
Yeah, now you're really onto something.
Where do we go here? And then we're going to defend Joe? Okay, well, here's the deal. So Trump's promised big, beautiful bills here. He's twisting arms left and right to get it passed. Efforts to push the legislation past the finish line have been stymied, they say, not by Democrats, but by discontents within the Republican Party itself. So now the Republicans are battling about the bill. But look, who's caused this problem? For 4+ months, they've been saying, we're working on a big, beautiful bill behind the scenes. Now we're down to the wire. And I said, you got to pass little teeny piecemeal legislation to get a lot of things off the table and clearly see who's up or down for something. They ignored my advice for 4 months, and now they've got a big old meltdown. Trump's promised big, beautiful bill is here. But Trump is going to Capitol Hill to do what he does best, make a deal, James. There are several warring factions within the Republican Party, and people are going to have to unite to get this thing passed. It's a tough ask. He'll have to remedy a lot of concerns, some of which contradict each other. And they say, hey, we got to try to meet Johnson's deadline by Memorial Day. I have a problem with this whole thing, James. I would vote no on the bill, but then I'd be Trump's enemy, right? Why would I vote no on the bill? For one simple reason, that I would not be able to read and understand it to clearly vote for it. You know how they tell you, don't sign anything contractually you don't completely understand? I would vote against it. But then Trump would target me for removal, right?
Yeah, he would say some unkind things. I mean, Trump has a knack of saying unkind things to people that he's currently at odds with, and then when that gets ameliorated, he says nice things again. So, been effective for him. I mean, he's gotten far. But as far as not signing something until you read it all, I mean, how many people, and ask yourself this, folks, and be honest, how many people read all of these privacy disclaimers before you have to do it before you can use your social media or your iPhone or anything? I mean, do you really read every single word of that? And I'm not saying, listen, when you're talking about the federal government, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing, except, we do all do it to a certain level, I guess. But yeah, I mean, if you did that, no representative would ever vote on anything.
Everybody voted no and said, until we can read the bill and understand it, we're going to vote no.
No, well, then nothing would ever get done, which would probably be a good thing. I mean, at least prior to Trump.
Done. If you put a simple bill together that was very simple and easy to understand, that was an up and down vote on a single page, single subject, whatever, you could understand it.
Well, I wonder why they don't do that. They've never done that. It's always 1,000 of 10,000 pages.
Because they can't get all their pork and all their misspending and all their misdirection and all their lies if they do that, because it's straight up and down. You either vote for or against something, and there's a dollar amount to it, and it's clear and you understand it. But when we create these 1,000-page bills that point to legislation all over the planet for decades, behemoth amount of legislation, you'll never be able to understand or understand what you're even agreeing to.
Talking about the pork, Matt Gaetz.
That's why they say you got to go ahead and pass it to see what's in it, because then you'll know, because it'll come down and bite you in the derriere, right?
Matt Gaetz was talking about this on an interview, some podcast I've never heard of. Again, alternative media taking center stage, but Matt Gaetz was, certainly one of the more, influential members of the Republican Congress, and played some big roles in the last several years with the Speaker and Mike McCarthy, and Matt Gaetz from Florida. And he was just saying in this podcast, just matter of factly, it sounded like Steve King on my program after he left office, about how it really works there. He said all of these congressmen bribe each other. They all bribe each other. Yeah, we're not talking about special interests coming in. The congressmen will meet and bribe each other, and that's how these things get stuck in these behemoth bills, because it's everybody paying each other off. He says everybody knows it happens, everybody's engaged in it, and it's not illegal. But that's why you have 1,000-page bills.
And it won't be illegal, because the guys that are doing this are the ones that make the laws.
Well, right? Should it be illegal to say I'll vote for this if you do this for me? I guess depending on what it is, but he was talking matter of factly about it.
In the mortgage industry, you can't even buy a real estate agent lunch.
Okay, touche.
You want to know why it's illegal? Because I might work with that realtor, and he might steer business to me as a mortgage broker, and so the real estate, it's illegal. It violates the code of ethics, and so I couldn't even buy you lunch if you're a real estate agent.
Well, every real estate agent I won't say it, but if they say, I've used this guy, what are you going to do? Put him in jail? If you ask,
I'm just telling you what the laws are.
Yeah, well, it certainly doesn't apply to the lawmakers when they're wheeling and dealing and horse trading up there about throwing things in. You'll have one bill that's ostensibly talking about one issue, and then in it is pork for issues not even tangentially related to it, which is, again, that's just the way it is up there. Should it be that way? No. But you've got a limited amount of time and a limited amount of resources and a little bit amount of capital. So let's just say, yes, people should probably go to prison. They should go to prison. Absolutely go to prison if they were signing Joe's name or doing things when they knew Biden had no idea what he was doing or agreeing to. Yeah, people should go to prison on that.
What if they represent? Hold on. What if they represent me and they sign a bill they don't understand and they haven't read?
Well, I'm sure that's happened. I'm sure that's happened.
Go to prison?
Should you go to prison for signing something you haven't entirely read? Again.
Oh, wait, and you represent me.
Prison, I don't know. Maybe not being reelected.
A fiduciary responsibility to.
Would you rather Trump go after these people or do away with the IRS? Just as a hypothetical.
He's not doing either.
Well, but he is doing things that I never thought I'd see.
Well, we'll talk about him. All right, hang tight, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 1 in the can, hour 2 coming up. I'm just telling you right now, I think it's a love fest up there. And I think the deep state folks are protecting one another. Sadly, Cash Patel included, even though I endorsed him publicly. Hour 1 of the can, 2 coming up. We'll talk about it. God save our republic.